Mr. Chairman, I want to step back. I think everybody on the committee wants good elections for our entire country. I don't want to make this Republican or Democratic issue. What happened in this county was abysmal, flat out abysmal. But just to a couple comments, I don't really think this is a Republican-Democrat issue. It brought up an issue that needs to be addressed. Let me just ask a few questions because it's for my own edification. Mr. Bogdan, is there any difference on Election Day? How long is early voting? How long is early voting in that county?
I believe it's a week before the election.
All right. Is it mail-in or in-person voting?
You can do either, but mail-in is much more common.
All right. But you can physically go and vote. Okay. Do you know if there's any partisan split on voting day between Republicans and Democrats?
There is a profound split. In Pennsylvania, since we brought in no excuse mail-in 2019, Democrats typically win vast majorities, 70–80% of the mail-in vote. Republicans typically win election day vote. In Luzerne County, I won 62% of the election day vote overall. Our campaign estimates that in the places where there were paper shortages, which tended to be rural, I won 68% of the vote there. So there's definitely an equal protection problem that if if something like this happens on election day, it tends to disproportionately hurt Republicans in the same way if something happened in the mail-ins, it would tend to disproportionately hurt Democrats.
Of this county, what proportion was this county in your district of population-wise?
About 38%.
Okay, so a third of it. So significant.
The biggest county.
So I can understand, I would say that from Democrat, Republican, I can understand concern because your basically biggest population base had their voting program absolutely screwed up. Does anybody have any idea who instructed the chairman of the Election Board Bureau to seek assistance from the district attorney?
I can speak to that. The Election Bureau brought up at their post-election thing that upon advice of counsel, Luzerne County Solicitor, we're going to send this over to the district attorney. Those are questions that should be asked to those folks, but many voters have said to me, it seems like they are looking for a way to not answer questions publicly. They don't want to take responsibility for this.
You mean the election board?
The election board and the election bureau, the employees that were doing the election. They've never answered a single question in public hearing from any voter on how this happened. We still don't know, as the ranking member said, who was responsible for ordering the paper.
So, I'll just submit this, and I would say this again for Republican or Democrat. The absence of answering a question for that somewhat implies complicity. I'm not saying it is, but it implies complicity, and it implies knowledge of some perhaps wrongdoing. They're not taking the fifth, but they're shifting the blame. That's just unfortunate. Again, we want every person legally in this country to vote and have that vote counted, period. Then let the cards fall where they may. I'm just very disappointed. I'm just imagining if this had happened in my district, I'd have been, as we say in Eastern North Carolina, bless my heart, but I would have been really very, very irritated. So I still don't understand why it was moved to a DA, because unless they were inferring a criminal matter, but it seems to be more that it would be just that we don't want to answer the questions and we want to get it boggled down for some type of legal dispute.
In the press reports on why they wouldn't come to this hearing, they said the DA is investigating, but also we have another election coming up in 8 weeks. In May, we have our primary, and we don't want it to interfere with that. There's always another election coming. These same people that bungled this election are going to be doing our election in May. How does that sit with a resident of Luzerne County who's wondering, will their vote count in May?
So it's 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans on the election board.
That's correct.
As I understand. How are they how are they voted upon?
I believe they're appointed by council, and then 2 Republicans, 2 Dems, and then they pick the third one, who's the chairman, Ms. Williams, who's a Democrat, and also Ms. McBride, the head of the election board, is an elected Democrat member of the Wilkes-Barre City Council. So I agree with the ranking member that there is more Republicans on the council, but the people who actually administer the election, that is Democrat control.
Yeah, and I'm taking Republican, Democrat out of this. I really am. I don't, if a Republican county was doing this, I'd be just as ticked off, because that would be embarrassing to me. And so I just think we have a lot of work to do. I think the state of Pennsylvania needs to kick in before the federal government needs to kick in. The federal government doesn't need to be everything for everybody, for every citizen in this country. That's why we have cities, counties, and states. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back.